Okay, so the last one that we're going to do as a team is histograms. There's quite a bit in the shell already about histograms, but I just want to show you one live so that you have a little bit of a better understanding. Bar graphs are kind of like histograms. Histogram just has intervals. So when is this beneficial? It's when you have a large amount of data. Let's say you had 50,000 values. It doesn't make sense to make a bar graph. So in a lot of cases, what we do is a tally of the frequency. This is a tedious process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of color code them. Your intervals. So when you have that square bracket, it's called a closed bracket. So what it means, it's inclusive of that value. The rounded bracket, which you see to the right of 140, is can be called a bunch of different things, but it's usually referred to as an open bracket, just goes to closed bracket. So let's say someone fell on the height of 140 centimeters even, it would go actually to the next interval. So that's how we're going to associate these different brackets. Under the tally, you're just going to do like what you did in middle school when you were kind of adding numbers up, just getting some data from your peers, is you're just going to basically tally up all those numbers that fall in the interval. For the first one, it's 130 to 140. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight any values that I see that basically begin with 1, 3. So the trick is to kind of have like a little bit of a system here. And you want to make sure that you skim at least 3 or 4 times because I am constantly losing track of values. Okay, so you'll notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to tally up 4, and the frequency is just the tally written as the number. This is going to, again, take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to, again, go through, and anything labeled between 140 to 150, I'm going to go ahead and highlight. So same thing. Looks like I only have 2 here. 1, 2, and 2. I'm going to continue again going through this process. So I have 150 to 160. Would be good to try a few of your intervals on your own. So I have 154. I have 151. I have another 154. I have 156 and 154. Nice part about making a color coordination is that you're basically kind of like checking values off as you go. So then you know to not go back to them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Okay, we're almost done. You'll notice a lot of the data centers around the middle values. As you work your way to the outer tails is usually what they're referred to, you're going to have less and less values. So between 160 to 170, we're still in the middle, so we're expecting quite a few values here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We have 5. And then again, as we're kind of moving outwards, we'll probably notice that we have less and less values. Let me just switch up the colors here so they look different. So 170 to 180, I still see quite a few values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, the tally just kind of helps keep track of your numbers. It's not absolutely necessary, but it does a good job just at describing the overall trends of the data. Then have 180 to 190, which we don't have many left. Again, I'm sorry for how tedious this is. We're going to get the computer to do a lot of our work with the bar graphs and the histograms. So there's 3. And last but not least, we can actually visually see it right there. Just 2 small values at the very end, 191, 194. Perfect. Okay, a good habit is to go back through and count up your total frequencies. So we have 10, 12, 17, 22, 24, 28, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. So all I did there is I verified that my frequency total adds up to 28, and I also have 28 values in my overall set. So all of these numbers add up to 28. This right here just kind of describes the bracket situation. So the square bracket, you include that value, a rounded or open bracket, it goes to the next interval. So up to but not including 140 is described as the height interval from 130 to 140. Once you actually have the tallies, the frequencies, all of that set up, you are actually in a really good shape. You're basically just filling out the rest as kind of like a bar graph. The main difference between a bar graph and a histogram is that a bar graph has spaces between the bars. Because this is all based on the same type of data, it's actually all connected as one big graph. So referencing the above, for 130 to 140, we had 4 students in that height span. So I'm going to go up to the value of 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually close it, as some people do. I'm just going to kind of get it started. If you would like to, you could close the bar like that. Or you can leave it open because it's kind of like a little bit of a trend line as well. From 140 to 150, you only had 2 people. So I'm going to go back down to where I see the value of 2. Okay, and it's going to look a little bit funky at first, but it all connects. So you can see why those values that lie right in the grid are super important. 150 to 160, we had 5 people. So we'll go back up to the value of 5, and actually we got super lucky because 160 to 170 also has 5 people. 170 to 180, we have 7 people. So again, this is just referencing everything that we just did above. Okay. And then from 180 to 190, you're going to see a big drop because we only had 3 people. So a lot of it is centralized right in the center there. It's going to drop all the way down to right here. Last but not least, from 190 to 200, we had 2 people. And then that is the end of everything. So we can close that up. We don't have an interval beyond 200, so it doesn't make sense to include it. If it's helpful for you, you could actually go ahead and just shade in. This is obviously a rough scribble. It's not meant to be perfect. Gives you the approximate shape though, and you can kind of see the general trends. You can see your high point, which is up here. Okay, with those 7 folks who are in the 170 to 180, you can see, you know, some of your low points, like the 190 to 200, which is a significant data point. I'm only circling these just to point these out. You don't need to circle anything on your graphs. So we have students' height. It might be good as well for us just to indicate some axes. So here would be height. And then often on histograms, you're going to have frequency on the side. So just to review what's in the module already, frequency just means the number of times that it occurs. So after these couple of videos, you've done basically one of each type of graph. We started off with a bar graph, which is what we're going to be doing in Google Sheets. It'll only probably take you about 3 or 4 minutes. You also have an example of a circle or pie graph. And now you have a histogram. And that is majority of what you need to know about displaying data in graphs.